Hello and welcome to the Social Hand Grenade podcast. My name is Joseph Wilson. Thank you very much indeed for downloading. I really do appreciate it. They say you should never, ever, ever meet your heroes. I first met my guest today weirdly, as all showbiz stories should start out, when I was 13 years old at the Royal Box Wembley Stadium watching my team Arsenal beat Newcastle in the FA Cup final 1998. I was simply captivated by this tall man doing impressions to camera on the outside Banquet Balcony wearing a purposefully creased mustard suit with brown shoes and no socks. He belted out his Frankie Detory impressions live on TV with the then gorgeous and still Gabby Logan, as she laughed her head off and as I, a chubby, insert insulting adjective, looked on. I was completely and utterly spellbound. After they rapped, or probably as the grip had to crane one out, thank you, I sheepishly, with my friend, said in our half-broken voices, excuse me, can I do my impression of Kermit the Frog for you, please? Slightly taken aback, he politely agreed to listen, looking over our shoulders, unsure. My friend gave me a nudge of confidence, and I said with gusto, "Hey ho, this is Kermit the Frog reporting live from Wembley Stadium! Yay!" "Very good," said the sockless man. Then asked us concerningly, if that's a word, are you here alone? My friend smugly explained who his grandfather was, the then vice chairman of Wembley Stadium. He signed my autobiography book, or my autograph book, and before I could ask if I could do another impression, he was whisked away from the creche by Logan and her long-legged lovely Logan legs. Never meet your heroes. It's 2015 and he's here in my house helping me soundproof the room to make it a better podcast before we record. I mean, how cool is that? Always meet your heroes. Friends, schmucks and schmerls. The Social Hand Grenade proudly presents Alistair McGowan. Did the Nick Clegg thing,
remember, yeah.
And what I loved about it, I went, how did you get Nick Clegg? Like, honestly, how did your brain just go, got it?
Yeah.
And because I'm fascinated, I do impressions, but I'm still fascinated by anyone who can do it. It still explodes in my mind.
So this is all about having a free lesson, is it? Is that what this is all about?
No, it's the other way around, mate. No, not at all. What it is, this space is called the Social Hand Grenade podcast. Right. So you can say whatever. Don't feel that you have to limit yourself to anything. It doesn't matter. Just whatever. Yeah. I mean, you listen to the amount of blah, 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 I talk, and you go, that's all right. I'll be all right. We've had Steve. Steve was the first one.
Yeah.
Nelly Nallen.
Yeah. Who called him that? Himself?
Yeah. Actually, Jeremy Hardy calls him, "Hi, Nelly."
Is that right?
Yeah. So Nelly, and then it was hilarious because you started talking about his sex life, which was so like, what Margaret Thatcher do? And yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But it was really funny. But then we got in a conversation like, why aren't you doing this in your stand-up? This is hilarious. He went, yeah, but I'm not comfortable. He was comfortable talking about on the podcast, but not on stage because he's more of a voice guy, and it's kind of doesn't want to do that blend thing. Or can you do the blend thing?
Okay. Yeah, you can blend it, I think. It's difficult, though. It's difficult. But I do little bits in my act about me and bits about how I feel about things. And sometimes you have to do it as you because you think you need the anger, which is your anger, or you need the bafflement, which is your bafflement at X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, I mean...
for instance, what's a good example? I do a routine. It's not my best routine, but I do a routine about how when you get to 70, automatically people start collecting sugar sachets wherever they go. As soon as they hit 70, they think, "Well, I better have that sugar." And I do that as me, and I take it into thinking about my mum and my dad. So that comes from me. But there's other bits, for instance, and I kind of love and resent the fact that I have to do this.
It's interesting.
I had an idea years ago. Probably about 2 or 3 years ago, actually, weirdly, sadly, but it still sounds brand new. The government announced that they were building 20,000 homes, 50,000 homes in 20 years on Greenbelt land.
Yeah.
50,000 in 20 years. And I read it in The Sun, and it said it's effectively an area the size of Slough that they want to build on the Greenbelt land, a town the size of Slough. So I thought, straight away, why don't they, instead of building on the Greenbelt land, if they want to build a town the size of Slough, Slough's a shithole. Why don't they knock down Slough, build a town the size of Slough on top of Slough?
Yeah, there we go.
I thought, that's great. I like that. So I did it on stage, and people laughed.
Yeah.
But it was what I could call a B
joke.
plus, B minus joke. And then I thought, we'll do this really well. So I started to do it as Andy Parsons, and somehow it really suited his rhythm. If Slough is a shithole, if the government want to build a town the size of Slough, why don't they knock down Slough and build a town the size of Slough on top of bloody Slough? And suddenly it's the best joke I do in the whole thing.
But why can't you do why can't you feel that you can just leave it as yourself?
Well,
why can't you go, no, actually, you know what? This is my joke as me, as a comic.
Well, it's a growing theory that I have.
This is an interesting Venn diagram that because I find this in my stand-up.
Yeah.
It's the similar, so this is why I'm interested.
Well, they want to see a bit of you. One of the worst heckles I ever got was at Wimbledon, a tiny little venue which I don't think exists anymore, somewhere near the Polka Theatre, if it might have been the Polka Theatre. And this is about probably 20 years ago, for God's sake. And somebody shouted out in the middle of my routine, which always went well wherever I was doing, middle of my 20 minutes I was doing the Comedy Store or whatever. And it was a quiet Sunday night, maybe about 40 people in this place. It was tough. And no matter how good the material was, and most people were really going for it, but this one woman suddenly shouted out, "Tell us something about you." I went, "What?" And she went, "It's all very well talking about these celebrities and voices and doing these funny impressions, but we want to know about you. What do you think about things?" And I hadn't got one thought in my act or of my own that was about me or how I felt. Not anything. And even now I have 3 or 4 things, but not many more than that. But you somehow have to have a little bit of you, I think. Otherwise it's just a performance. And now it's got more and more like, the likes of John Bishop or somebody like that. I mean, all right, he's very popular and he's very skilled at what he actually does and he's very warm and charming. But if you analyse the material, it's not the vision of an Eddie Izzard. It hasn't got the anger of a Jack D. And yet he's up there. It hasn't got the minute observations of detail and the great writing of somebody like McIntyre, who I think is a fantastic writer of comedy material. And yet John's very, very popular. What's it about? It's about likability. It's about being like them and having an attitude. Now, as an impressionist, this is the thing that I've come to realise recently. If you do game shows, I had the worst experience probably of my professional life on Mock the Week about 2 years ago, 18 months ago. Absolutely awful.
This is Social Hand Grenade Podcast.
What's that?
This is called the Social Hand Grenade Podcast.
Well,
all full of faux pas or whatever.
It's my worst thing.
All right.
And I sat there. I'd been to the one the week before. The producer said, Dan Patson, he said, why don't you come to the one the week before? Some people do that, and you can see how it works and see the show from the audience point of view. So I watched it, and Ed Burman's on there being very funny, and everybody else being very funny. And I thought, I can do this. And my stuff's as good as this. And then I sat on the show the next week, and I realised that if I did a joke, if you do an impression, as impressionists do impressions on programs like that, it happened to me for 20 years. The minute you do an impression, say I do in fact, this is what happened. I did my impression of Dark. I mean, Dark sitting right next to me, so it's a great kudos in the fact that I'm doing Dark. I was sitting there. So I did Dark. And Dark himself then said, that was fascinating. It was like the ghost of Louis Walsh was actually in the room. And you think, okay, so the next time you do a joke, am I going to say, oh, that was almost funny? No,
right.
I'm not.
Oh, so he completely gunned you down.
Well, he didn't mean to. He was getting a laugh off it and thought, this is what I can do. But honestly, every single chat show, panel show that I've done over the years, that's the gag they do. Alan Davis did this to me years ago on an advertising show. I think I did an impression of Alan Hansen or something, and you say, it's as if Gary Lineker's actually in the room. And you think, right, thanks.
All right.
So that means the next time you do an impression, you're really scared that they're going to do that again. So then you don't do impressions. So then you're not doing the thing that's made you go on the show, but made people want to watch you on that show. So then you start doing your gags as yourself, getting back to this point. And without the voice, you don't have an attitude. So I'd do a gag on there and think, that's a good gag. No one laughs because they're actually literally thinking, who are you? Not who are you doing, who are you? So, Milton can do a joke on there, and it can be a pun like one of my puns. And you're going to laugh because they go, well, we know who you are. You're a bit crazy. You're Milton Jones. We like you when you do a joke like that. Yes. So here's one of my gags that I used to do as Milton, right, in my act. I now do it as Giles Brandreth. I'll do it as Giles Brandreth. I go, and I say, Giles is a great tweeter. I said to him recently, what do you tweet about? He said, I tweet about anything. Very recently, I came out of my house, and there were two young men dealing cannabis. I thought, I'm not having that. I grabbed the cannabis off them. I chased them off. They chased me, grabbed the cannabis back. I chased them for a bit. They chased me for a bit. I put that on Twitter. Hashtag.
Yeah.
They see as Giles, it works. As Milton, it works. If I do that as me, people go, ugh.
This is...
Who are you?
Just brilliant. Okay, my brain explodes. My brain explodes because this is amazing. Right, so let's bring it back. I want to try and deconstruct this, okay? Because this is so fascinating. And, I've had loads of other comics, and I've spoke to Alderton. He was here last week.
All of him.
All of him. Yeah,
all the different ones.
As he's having a breakdown, but it was a positive breakdown, but he was actually really happy about life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
I was like, come away from the wall, mate, and microphone.
Yeah.
So you obviously, with Dara and with Alan Davis, right, you're on the circuit through the 90s.
Not with Dara, but with Alan, yeah.
With Alan, okay.
Yeah.
But still, like, they've been going long enough.
Yeah.
While you probably were more at a similar time-ish as on the circuit. And so do they fit? Because this is a lot of resentment I've found with impressions. People go, oh, shut up, mate. Just fuck off.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well,
so is that their way to go, oh, yeah, whatever. Well done. Cheers, Alistair. So next...
I'll sum it up like this.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely see what you mean. When I was absolutely starting out, 1989 or something like that, I was on with Jeff Green.
Yeah.
Jeff Green's kind of gone into the background a bit recently. In fact, I think he's gone to
Australia, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in Australia. So the chances of him hearing this are quite remote, so that's quite good. But no, he actually taught me a lesson, and it was an invaluable lesson, and a lesson that's really spurred me on, one of those things that knocked me for six. And I thought, all right, I'm going to show you, not Jeff, but everybody. He said to me one night, we did about 3 gigs together when I was just starting out, and he said, I can't do an impression of him because his accent's really crazy, but he said something like, it's easy for you, mate. All you got to do is do a funny voice and people laugh. And I've always remembered that, because when we were doing the big impression on television, that used to haunt me, because I thought, actually, what we've got to do on television when we were doing our impressions was look like the person, with the right makeup, the right attitude, the right face pulling, everything else, sound like the person, and have the gag.
Fucking yes.
So
yes,
I used to say in interviews, we had to score a hat trick where most comics have to score a goal.
Nice.
Okay, so that's what we have to do. It's not just about putting on a funny voice at all. And it's even now, if I do a new voice now, like recently, for instance, I started listening because I thought, I don't do enough people from the music world. So I started listening to Harry Styles, and I was really surprised, how he's got really one of them voices that they all have, them pop stars. It's like, you can't tell whether they're really drunk or just, that's just the way they want to sound. Do you know what I mean? But it's that, and I thought it's quite a good voice, really. And yet, people just like stared at it. And I thought either they don't know how he sounds and they don't think, actually, that's really good. Or they just think, yeah, that's the voice, but what else?
Or
I think it was a bit of
they're
both.
staring at you. Tell us what about you, mate.
Or that.
Who's Alistair?
Or that. But no, you can't just do the voice and get a laugh.
Yeah, that's what I've found. I've had some... Because I do some... It's not all impression. Like, I've seen your set many times. Like the festival. I saw you 2 years ago at the festival. My brothers was doing a gig. The band. My brother's band. And your set is very kind of impression-y. There's a lot of impressions. And then you put in your own jokes.
Yeah.
But with my stuff, it's kind of impressions, then I'll hop to different accents and voices. So it's a bit of everything. And people say, what are you? Impressions or stand-up? I go, no, I'm a stand-up.
Yeah.
And I do these voices. And that's my shtick, But I feel that people really want to pigeonhole some people, maybe impressions, because I think it is seen as a bit of a silly gimmick. Yeah, well done, mate.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a lot of animosity with comics, because like I said, and I've had this, and I've heard other people, even Alderton said this, that another really big comic, apparently a really big comic, and I would say about, I mean, to Terry, maybe he was in private, but he was like, it's all well and good, Terry, you just gotta, just do the voice and you get a laugh. But there's so much, as you demonstrated, and I'm so happy you said that, because it's true.
Yeah, all
you
the
have
time.
to do a lot. The joke has to be believable enough to fit
exactly that person
in the person. Like,
yeah.
if it's too, like, because sometimes you can do really silly jokes, and it's so far that you've got the material over here so far left field, and the voice, and people can go, we suspended our imagination. All right, but if it's really just off, they go, nah.
Yeah, that's right. Because also what's happening now, which makes it really, really hard for impressionists, all of us, is that people are not watching television that they don't want to watch, if you see what I mean. For instance, when I was your age, when I was 18, 17, 19, snooker was massive. So everybody did the voice of Ted Lowe, the whispering Ted commentator who commentated on the snooker back in the 80s. And everybody knew that voice, because if you turned on BBC Two in 1985, or turned on the television and it was on BBC Two, one of the 3 channels, and the snooker was on, you would probably stay and watch it, because you had only 2 other choices. One of which was probably Panorama, and the other was Coronation Street. So you
spliff out, hang out your mouth.
I'll stay with the snooker. So you'd listen to Whispering Ted Lowe, and that voice was so recognisable, and everybody around the country knew him. But now you think about it. Okay, so you've got John Virgo commentating on the snooker. Here he comes, this young man from Staffordshire. Can he do what he's set out to do? He's been playing snooker since the age of 9. This is the biggest moment in his life. If he pots this black, he's going to take this frame. He's going to take this tournament. Everybody, who likes snooker will watch that and know that voice.
Yeah,
but nobody else anymore, because only snooker fans will watch it. Because if there's 100 other channels, which there are 300 other channels, and you switch on snooker on BBC Two, you think, I don't want to watch snooker, you'll go somewhere else.
Well, let's be honest.
So your market, mathematically, your market for each voice has shrunk so much.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, I'm a victim of what you just... Is a victim? No, I'm an example of what you just said. My 28, if you ask me, when was the last time you watched TV? No idea.
Really?
Netflix or YouTube, yeah. But that is our generation.
Absolutely.
Even my mum speaks to me about what's on TV, and I go, okay.
Yeah.
In the past 5 years, completely changed. So that's really interesting. You find that.
It's impossible to keep on top of it anymore. When I was doing the show Big Impression, it was 1999 to 2005, which sounds quite recent. I suppose it was quite recently. But then I would get the Radio Times every week, and I would circle the people that I thought we would do, and I would look at those programmes, and I would watch those programmes, and then Channel 5 came along. That was big news. Suddenly there were 5 channels to watch. Maybe a few people watched Sky Sports, and a handful watched Sky One. And then the minute we finished, suddenly all these channels exploded, and then Netflix and YouTube and everything else. You can't keep on top of it anymore as an impressionist. You try and predict trends like a market analyst, you know, in finances and futures. You can't predict anymore. I do an impression of George Clark. From George Clark's Amazing Spaces. And George has been on now for about probably 10 years doing that programme about the amazing spaces that people have created. And years ago, everybody would have known who George Clark was. Now it has to rely on the fact that I do a gag at the end of it, which makes everybody laugh whether they know him or not.
Well, I don't know who George Clark is. So there we go.
He's done 10 series probably. If you're on the tube and you see a picture for the Ideal Home exhibition,
bald guy.
George is always on it. No, George is the guy who always wears looks like a false cheap leather jacket. It's not. It's probably really expensive. He's quite good looking and very tall with very thick hair, and he wears a little zip-up leather jacket. And he talks about people's homes and houses and how they've made them into amazing places. And he comes from, and the gag I do at the end is, people say to me, why are you so amazed by small spaces? And I say, when you're brought up in Sunderland like I was, anywhere else would seem amazing. And that's the joke, sadly, which makes people laugh. So, so this is really interesting. And I'm so thankful for your honesty. No, because this is interesting. I really want to know about this. It fascinates me.
It fascinates me. And that's interesting. It haunts you as well. Yeah. Because if you go back to 90s, so you got the big impression, right?
Yeah.
So boom, that's you've just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Right. You're no longer that, he's this geezer on stage and some Stag and Hen, jonglers, whatever, no one
Or at
cares.
Wimbledon at the Polka Theatre, which might not have been the Polka Theatre. Yeah.
But now they're like, oh, right, you've now got a name.
Yeah.
So suddenly you've elevated.
Yeah.
So what was... So now you were massive with the impressions, as you said, going back 10 years, everyone was watching TV, etc., etc. So what do you do now? You're in this crisis, are you?
Well, now.
Yeah, well, now, like
the South Africans say, nah. Do you mean now or nah? Crisis is a bit too strong a word. I think it's harder for people like you who want to do impressions and maybe do what I did and have your own show, because I don't think that almost can happen now.
Really?
Yeah, because of what we've been saying. And I was asked this recently, and I said, I think what will happen now, and I've seen it on YouTube, but I can't remember the guy's name. Darren something does a lot of football impressions. And
oh, the fat guy, the Scouser.
you said it.
Fat guy,
he's large. Yeah, true. Pratley, is it Darren Pratley? I think so. Darren something anyway. No, maybe Darren Pratley is a footballer. Anyway, yeah, that guy. He does the football impressions. He does his Jamie Carragher and all that. His makeup was Jamie Carragher, and he does. I can't go from one until he does Gary Neville as well. And I mean, they're very good impressions. He does a very good Brendan Rodgers as well. But you think he's getting good views for YouTube, But I think that's the way it's going to go. And there's another guy I know who I worked with recently who does, he does a lot of tennis voices. He does Andy Murray, does a very good Djokovic, which I can't do, and he does a Rafa as well. And he's a very, very talented impressionist. But those are the people that he does. And you think, once you get beyond that in tennis, I mean, I worked for a while on impression of a guy called Juan Martín del Potro, who was world number 5 about 4 years ago when I was doing a lot of tennis gigs.
And I listened to him, and he has this amazing voice like this, and he always sounds really like he is about to die. And,
it was very funny, but you think, how many people are going to know outside tennis Juan Martín del Potro? In fact, how many people who follow tennis will know the voice, not the playing style, but the voice of the 5th ranked player outside the top 4. Yeah. So as I say, I think you're going to get more and more people specialising, people who do pop industry impressions, whatever you call it now, music industry impressions, and that's the way it's going to go, I think, because people can, as you said, just watch one stream of television, and that's what they do, and that's what they know. And of course, it makes it hard for you, as you again alluded to. If you make a mistake or you don't get it quite right, they've watched that person probably 100 times more than you have, because you can't watch everybody to that extent anymore. 1999, 4 channels. Yes, thank you very much.
So you were literally probably the last
That's how I like to think of myself.
You cashed in, didn't you, sir? No, good, fair play to you. But that's really interesting. I kind of never thought of that. That it's so specialised now. But in your
might
position,
be an excuse, but I don't think it is.
No, I don't know.
I often hear Rory Bremner say that, and I think he often. Well, I better not say that, but sometimes Rory bemoans the lack of characters in politics, and I think, there are lack of characters in politics? You make them into characters.
You can, but I think, going back to Spitting Image, which you were in, right, that there was so different. Such a different world and so many different characters, but now they're all kind of the same.
No, I disagree.
Really?
Disagree. Yeah, I mean, can you say that somebody like Ed Balls, who I don't do a brilliant impression of, but he's somebody who's very, very eager and has got that he can't pronounce his R's properly or his S's properly, and obviously you've got Miliband, who's got this amazing voice, which is really, I can't even make it accurate. You have to do a caricature of it because it's a caricature. And then you've got somebody like Vince Cable, who is possibly the most boring man, actually very wise and interesting, but has an unfortunately very, very drab voice. And you think they are there, these characters, just as much as they were probably in certainly Major's era, maybe not Thatcher's era. That was something different with Spitting Image. But I think that there are characters there. But again, I go back to the same point, that people don't really know who they are, because if you don't want to watch the news, you don't have to watch the news.
I find this now when I'm trying to... Because I have this thing where I'll suddenly do impressions for a bit, like write them, and then something else interests me, and I'll do it in my own head. And then I try and think, I should try and get back into something. And then I go, hang on, I don't even watch TV. I don't know who half these people are. And there's part of me going, I don't really care. Like who Harry Styles is.
That's the other thing, sadly, that happens. And you're only 28, so you're in trouble. But
no, I think I am. No, and that's the honest truth.
Yeah. It's
So you saying that was the trouble? So does that mean that you'd have to go? Someone say produce, go, so and so. Like, who's that?
Well, I remember one of them. This is going to sound rude about him, but one of the last impressions that I worked on in our show was Vernon Kay. And our producer said, you can look like him, big eyes, right ear on, and have a look at Vernon. And I did, and I was just watching him thinking, am I really doing an impression of somebody who's, he's a really nice guy, Vernon. I've met him, but did I want to watch those programs that he does,
But you did.
I did, and we did it once, but it gave me so little satisfaction. I thought, I think this is the moment where we have to take a rest. And that was the one that, in a way, that broke me, because I just thought,
what am I doing this is...
Yeah, I mean, because, when you do people who... A lot of people say, who do you decide who to do?
Yeah.
And generally, I do people who I watch a lot of, so it's not an effort. But
and it's a
like
joy.
I say, Vernon's a nice guy, good presenter, does what he does well, but I just don't want to watch Family Fortunes. If you do, you watch it once and you think, I get the idea there, and I probably wouldn't watch it again unless I was really ill in bed.
Could you... There's so many things I just want to deconstruct, but I love this conversation, how it's going everywhere. So on that thing about
Me.
No, but it's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Feel free to, don't edit yourself. You said about deconstruction. Sorry, about offending. You don't want to offend Vernon.
Yeah.
Right. But it's interesting. I remember when I first met you years ago, you said that it's your joke about Joe Brand of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
That you did that on the circuit.
Yeah.
And then she actually said, yeah, I don't like that. So my question is, like, do some people react badly? And I do impress, and some people going, can you, even other comments, can you do me? And then,
well, I think the one with Joe, actually, I still do, though I've tried to stop doing it because I don't think it's very funny anyway. But she didn't mind that joke. I think it was, we did a sketch with Joe on Spitting Image, which was really quite nasty, and that's the problem in a way that I've had with doing programs like that over the years, and maybe why they're not asking me on them now or they're coming back, is that if you have a public face rather than just being a voice behind a puppet, if people know who you are and what you do, and you're doing a program like that, you're enthralled to the producers of that program. So it's their take on things and the writer's take on things, and you're the voice, you're actually the puppet. And then when you meet someone, they say, oh, that was you that did that. Well, it was really offensive and really upset me. You go, well, I was doing my job, because I didn't come up with the idea, but I had to do it because I was being employed. So I think in those days, the joke we did about Jay, I think that's what she didn't like, but she probably can't even remember it, and nor can I, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think we've got on very well since, and she probably knows how the industry works. We all say things to get a laugh, and at the end of the day, that's about it. But yeah, causing offence is something I've never wanted to do.
Yeah, and it feels
really.
that even us talking now, you're very delicate with your words. Like when I said that Darren, the fat Scouser guy, because I think the difference between us, other side of the table, going, he's a fat Scouser guy. What do you want? But you were like, oh, and I understand that and I appreciate that, and that's not a knock to you. But the interesting thing is that when you're doing these impressions, like some people have reacted badly, like Joe. But then some people react like, oh, that was fantastic. Like, what names have said, oh, that was great. Like, oh, thanks. That's fun. And to be honest, it probably actually helps their street cred.
Yeah, there were quite a few. I mean, years ago, he's still doing it, really. But we did Hugh Edwards as the newsreader. And at the time, I think he was doing the 6 o'clock news, not, it was a 9 in those days. Now, of course, it's the 10. But I met him, and he said at the time, I think you've made me more famous than I have done myself. And more people know me now because of what you've done than before. But that was interesting. He was doing the 6 o'clock news, because when we first did our programme, I remember I lived in Clapham at the time, and a very old friend of mine, I don't see now, but at the time we saw each other.
He's now a mate.
No. I think it was
relegated
she was a physio, but I used to see this woman in the street. And just after the first show had gone out, she said, I loved that character. I loved all the impressions, and I particularly loved that character of the Welsh newsreader that you invented. And I said, well, he is the newsreader. She said, no, he's not the newsreader. I said, he is. He does the 6 o'clock. And she said, oh, well, this is London. Nobody watches television here before 7. No one's back from work by then. I thought you just made him up. So again, you're faced with this thing of who knows who. But even then, one of the most famous people in television to the majority of the country, totally unknown. And it was a good point. In London, people aren't home before 6. They didn't know who this person was.
You're talking about you just doing the job in terms of like the producers and the writers. This is what I want to hit on. When you did your show for 6 years, prime time show, right? And I used to watch it the whole time, and it was brilliant. But did you find what you felt that you were at the mercy of these writers and producers?
No, not on my show at all. No, because that was my show, and I was
Oh,
able
right.
to say on that show.
So, for example, Spitting Image.
Spitting Image, yeah, I was employed. So
You were employed, so that's like when you just started out.
yes.
Like, basically, what, just after uni or something?
No, I mean, I left uni in '86 and went to drama school till '89, and then 3 years on the circuit in '92 with Spitting Image. So yeah, I was still pretty young.
How old were you with that? How
I was
old were
about
you?
26, 27 when I was doing Spitting Image, and did it for 4 years.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
not bad.
there were very, very few sketches that you didn't want to do because you just found them funny. But for instance, you know, I'm not a royalist, but I'm certainly not anti-royal. And there was some stuff that we used to do, particularly as Prince Charles. You know, I was really a huge admirer of Charles, particularly because of his environmental concerns, which we shared. And actually, we've met several times at environmental functions and fundraising things and speech making, whatever. And I had to do a few sketches as him then, and even then, you know, I thought, don't like being mean about Prince Charles's environmental things, or.
But you don't. That's just a you thing because you don't like being mean about people.
Well,
Which
no,
isn't
I'd
it
be very
ironic
mean
for
about-
being a comic?
Yeah, I'd be very In fact, I
Because comedy is mean. You
Yeah,
fool
a lot
someone
of it is.
fall over to arse over head, you're laughing because oh, it's not me, and look at this poor bastard.
yeah, but I've never been like that. My instinct when someone falls over is, "Are you all right?"
Naturally,
I would never, which is not a comic's response.
I don't mean that I'm going, hey, you fell over, you old bitch.
No, I know, but a lot of people
No,
do.
of course,
Yeah,
like, you have.
And you know, you've been framed. I can't watch it because
That's horrible.
All I'm thinking of is that person really hurt themselves, and then they show it in
Horrible.
slow motion, and you think, what a sort of world have we come to when people are enjoying seeing people get hurt, as long as you know they haven't died, which is more or less what they say on that. But I just think with animals, it's slightly different. When you see animals doing funny things, that really makes me laugh because they're so innocent, and obviously, you know, they're not getting hurt and they're more resilient than we are. But you know, cats and dogs falling over and things, it does make me laugh. But no, I always think, are you all right? It's not a very comedic way of looking at things. I would be mean about certain people. In fact, we were banned by my producer from doing stuff about Jeremy Clarkson. Even then,
What, the recent...
no, 16 years ago. You know.
But then again, it's the same. Was he being...
Oh yeah, but
then?
it was because his politics is so, and not just his politics. His humanity is so alien.
Is
to
it a
mine.
character? Because with all this, like, Katie Hopkins and all this stuff, you go, is it a character?
No, I don't think it's a character.
I mean, have you met him?
No, once we were in the same room together. and
But,
I was
you
kinda
might know
horrified then
people-
by what he said.
Oh, right, so that's not part of his...
No, I don't think so.
Oh, really?
No, I mean, there's signs of him. My sister, weirdly, is a huge fan of his and has all his books. And every time I go and stay at my mother's, his books are there by the bed that I sleep in because my sister used to sleep in that room. And the Clarkson books are there. And I should just move them, actually. But I always think, oh, that awful man, you know. But I have dipped into a few of them. And bits of what he says, I really agree with. But it's his lack of... Here's the thing, Joseph, this old-fashioned... Can I call you Joseph or Joe? Either.
Oh.
The thing that... This old-fashioned word, which I saw recently in Panorama. I don't normally watch Panorama, but I made a point of watching it because I just read what it was about and thought, I want to see that. Fergal Keane did this thing about love in politics. And it was all about the importance of love and how love is really what we all want. And which parties exhibit love, which encourage love, who are most likely... And to hear this word love being mentioned in half an hour... so many times.
Yeah.
Primetime Beeps when I thought, isn't it awful? We just don't hear that word. We hear about conflict. We hear about hatred. We hear about race crime. We hear about hate crimes, gay bashing. We hear all these things.
Yeah.
Homophobia, this,
Yeah.
that and the other. And awful murders and obviously all the ISIS stuff. Suddenly to hear this word love. And I thought, I was really moved. And I thought, that's what we all want. And that's what we exhibit on a daily basis. And I've never been the sort of comic who wants to cause offence, and I don't understand it. I think there is a way, and I hope that we did that, mainly on The Big Impression and through whatever I've done. I would like to think you can do a comedy of love. And when I watch Russell Howard, I'm always really, really impressed with Russell Howard's show, Good News, because the whole ethos of it, yeah, sure, he laughs at people, and he laughs at people falling over, but he also celebrates goodness, and that's a major part of that programme. And the stuff he does towards the end, he celebrates somebody good. And I just think, we just don't do enough of that. And I think comedy has a role to play as much as any other of the media that a lot of comics would very happily slag off and say, well, the media did that and the media did that. It's us as well that create this climate of
I totally agree.
there have to be limits in what you say about
agree.
people. But at the same time, now and again, as I had in 1999, you have a target and you think, well, that person, I really want to say something because I feel really strongly. And for me, that person was Clarkson. And my producer said, it might be strong words, but it's not funny. So stop writing it. And we never put them out.
Was it funny? Because
Not
there's a difference
really,
between a comic going, no, that's funny, and the producer's going, oh, it's not funny. And then you go, well,
It wasn't
what do you
funny.
know about comedy? Unless it's like a new, like the big boys, then you go, fine, that's...
There was too much passion.
John Lloyd goes, no, that's not funny, lad. You go, fine.
Yeah, no, there was too much passion in it.
But I totally agree with that love thing, because that whole thing of these... in the Western world, you know, you look at a paper and everything sells. Chaos! It's chaos! It's this! It's chaos! Every news, every paper, even today on the tube, you see what sells, the film posters. Think of how many guns there are.
Martin Clunes was interviewed recently in the Times on Saturday, and it was the weekend of the Oscars, and there'd been a lot of talk about the attitude towards women in films.
Yeah.
And, you know, about the whole red carpet thing, if you remember people saying, we're not going to answer questions about what we're wearing. Do you ask the men what they're wearing? And it was one of those instances where you think, that's a fair point. I've never actually thought about how sexist that is.
Yeah.
I read this article of Martin Clunes, and it started off with him talking about sexism towards, or the representation of men in the film industry. And I thought, this is going to be one of those right-wingers responses to something that a lot of people describe as political correctness gone mad. But actually you think, yes, that's a sensitivity towards women that we haven't shown. It's not political correctness, it's just basic sensitivity. Anyway, Clunes' piece, he started off and he said, the men are not well represented in movies. And then he said, I'm a nice guy. Where are the nice guys in movies? All the movies that are nominated for Oscars are about men are killers, they're plotting, they're murderers, they're terrorists, they're soldiers, they're killing people.
But they do sleep with a fit woman, so you've got to kind of swings and roundabouts here.
But it's one of those things. You're absolutely right.
I totally agree with you.
But, you know, I don't know who it was who wrote it. Drama is conflict. And
it sells.
Conflict is drama. And without conflict, what have you got?
It sells.
It does sell. But I'm sure it's making people more angry, making people copy that behaviour. And again, I think comics come into that. If you're making fun of everything, what do you take seriously? When do you show compassion rather than laughing? Because, you can laugh things off, and we all have to do that. Otherwise we just, contemplate our own mortality and kill ourselves, really. But you have to laugh at the absurdity of life. But if you're laughing at people constantly, it makes them feel small.
It depends how you do it. And, skilled comics can actually take the mick out of someone, but not still have that sensitivity with it. But then some comics, which I've really discussed, because I was bullied as a kid, right? And you just see them just bullying people in the audience. Yeah. And what they're saying is something, you see it once or twice, only a few times, but you hear something, you're like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Let's break that down, and how idiotic does that sound? But it's just a quick laugh, bang. I mean, there's a few comics that, in your time, still... in my time.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to
lazy.
do that. Sometimes you have to do that. And there is an accepted
What do you mean
thing.
you have to do that? You have to tell those jokes?
No, you have to...
question them?
Because there's an exchange of power, if you like. I mean, life is power. That's the thing which I think a lot of people just don't understand.
I thought it was love a minute ago.
It's love and it's power. I mean, we want...
the power of love.
We want love. Yeah, it's the power of love. But I think power is what... See, I can sometimes sympathise with people in terms of slightly abuse of power or obsession with power, and secondly drug taking, because I've never taken drugs, and I hope I never abused power. I don't think I have. But when you're on stage, it's a huge drug. You're kind of high. You're sort of bigger than people because there's one of you and there's sometimes 2,500 of them, and they're all listening to you. You have power. You have to take that power and seize that power. And it is like a drug, so you get high. Now, when you think of people in an average, everyday working situation, the majority of them don't have any power. And I think we all like a bit of power. And I think sometimes that's why you get cruelty to animals. That's why you get domestic violence. That's why you get bullying in schools. Is because at some point, for some reason, people want to feel they have power over something. In fact, what we forget is that we all have power, a huge power, and that is the power over ourselves. And a lot of people don't realise they have the power over themselves, over their own actions, over their own life, and that really should satisfy them. But I have this sort of empathy because I think I've never felt that desire for power. But what is being on stage? It's having a power. It's making people watch you, making people listen to you. And getting back to your question, this is a very long answer.
Yeah, it's great. Carry on.
If you have somebody in the audience who's ruining it for everybody else, who's making it hard for you, you have to, as a football pundit would say, you've got to take them out of the game because it's your game. You're the star midfielder. You're the star of the show. You're the one they come to see, not the person in the front row. So work with them, yes, and I agree. Don't bully them and don't make them feel stupid. But at the same time, you've got to maintain your powerful position somehow, because that's the name of the game.
That's great. That's great. And, you know...
Philosophy, then, Alistair.
No, it's fantastic. And maybe that should have been your response when that woman heckled you in Wimbledon.
Well, normally it would be, but it was just so... Is abstruse a word? So abstruse.
Obtuse.
Yeah, I think there is abstruse. We'll look it up later on. But anyway,
but what
it was so obtuse, that you just think, what the hell?
Well,
it wasn't get off or shut up or sexist or... You know.
This brings us nicely back to that kind of scenario where people are like... and I've heard this about you. You know, you've heard when you hear the people, you know, it's like, oh yeah, but who is he? Or that kind of... And you've tried to do that. But can't you just go, all right, for this set, there's no impressions, so...
Yes, you can, and I did do that
or
for a
people
little while.
are like, no, you're too... No, we come here to see you do the voices. Shut up, do your voices.
Yeah.
You know, don't forget all that other nonsense. You know, if
Yeah.
I want to see someone else, I'll see someone else. Or are you kind of like locked in? Are you know,
that
being
style of
famous,
performing.
have you kind of like fucked yourself being successful?
To a point.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do, you know what you mean. Yeah, to a point you have.
This one I really want to know. Can you actually break away and go, no, I've been my act like Alderton or Carlin, which he did years ago. Then he became the George Carlin, or same with Pryor. Can you just bin your act tomorrow and go, right, this is what I think about love and empathy and cruelty to animals?
You could try. I mean, that's the thing with the environmental thing. You know, when I was on the cusp of that success, I was getting asked to do a lot of stuff, you know, promoting recycling, everything. And I did it. And then after a while, when the TV show went and I was still doing that, I thought, all I'm doing is nagging people at the moment. And I find it hard, generally. I mean, I haven't done today, but I find it hard to speak as me and to incorporate the voices. Because once I get into my philosophical tracks, like just now...
Yeah.
That's me, you know. So if I'm talking about the environment, for me, it's a serious thing.
Yeah.
It was difficult. I would love to have done a show about it, but people come to see the funny voices. I saw Alison Moyet years ago, 2005 in Chichester. I was down there doing a play, 3 plays for the summer. Brilliant experience. Lovely summer, really warm, and we went one night to see Alison Moyet in a tent in the middle of Chichester.
Wicked.
It was fabulous.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of any of that sort of music, but I was with somebody who wanted to go, and I quite fancied her, and she said, do you want to come? So I said, yes. So that's the only time I've ever gone to see live music, because I fancied somebody who said, do you want to go? So I go. We're watching Alison Moyet. Anyway, too much background. She gets to her 3rd song, and I'm really enjoying it, and then she starts singing some songs in French, and I'm still really enjoying it, and the crowd are getting a bit restless.
Because you speak French?
Yeah, but I just like French music as well. Mm-hmm. And then after about 40 minutes, probably less, someone shouts out, do something we know.
Oh, no.
And she didn't quite know what to do, and then they started getting really restless, and people saying, we don't know these, you know. And then she said to the band, I can't remember the name of her classic hit because I'm not good enough, my knowledge of music, but someone shouted out the name of one of her songs, whatever it was. Yeah, you can Google it, I can't remember.
I'm doing it now.
So they shouted out the name of the song, and she went, okay, and she went to the band, do you know that one? And they went, no, I don't know how it goes. Because the band were all really young, you know, like 19, 20 years old. Do you know that one? No, I don't know that one. Okay, so this is the one that goes, I just do it in B, and it goes like this. And she sang the beginning of it, and then they started to kind of improvise, the band, this song that following what she was singing, and she sang whatever it was, this classic hit of hers. Love
Resurrection? Is this love?
I don't know.
Is this love? No. That's all right.
Anyway, whatever it was. And so they did it, and the crowd were appeased, and they started whooping and enjoying and chanting and jumping up and down, and she had to do what they wanted her to do. And that was a lesson to me. I thought, okay, you kind of have to give the crowd what they want, because that's what they've come to see. If you've got a whole new thing, yes, do that. I did a show about Noel Coward a while ago, and we just did Noel Coward. But even then, the fellow who was from the Noel Coward Society, who said to us, you have my blessing to do these words of the master, he said, I think you should do some impressions at the start as you, to introduce it, just so that people see what they expect from you first, and then get into the show.
Were you comfortable doing that? Or were you like, no, I'm here
I thought he
being
was
an
right.
actor?
I thought he was right, because otherwise you do think, again, another journalist who's become someone I know quite well now, when I first started doing the play in Chichester, he interviewed me, and he said, don't you feel, though, that you're performing with one hand behind your back? I said, what do you mean?
That's fantastic.
But he told me, and you've already got the image, he just said, well, you've got this great skill and you're not using it. You know, you're doing something else, but you're not showing us the main trick. Doesn't that feel weird to you? And at the time, no, it felt fantastic that I was doing something different. But then over the years, and it's been 10 years, I suppose, you do realise that people come to see me because they want to see their voices.
But you said that leads us on to the acting bit, where you said you completely did different. You know, you had this stage when you started acting.
Do I have to pay you for this, by the way? It's therapy. It's great.
It's great, isn't it? No, but I want to know. Like, I've had loads of people here, and I've I've all fans of everyone, you know, warming up to you, but I really want to know. Like, it's the mechanics, but it's the machine underneath that's driving everything. You know, as a comic, I still have a massive interest. So this is what I really want to know. And what I want to know is, so you did the impressions, the big impressions on the circuit. So Spitting Image, late 80s, all the way to 2005. The big impression.
Big impression, yeah.
So that's like
maths, 10 years.
Maths, 10 years, 15 years?
10.
2005
Oh, sorry, from Spitting Image to doing that. Yeah,
so is that
about 13, 14 years, yeah.
Right, so that, and then... So now, when do you start? Do you do acting? It was after a few.
Straight away, yeah. I mean, it sort of overlapped.
So it's changed. So what was that? Trying to convince audiences and acting producers going, I'm not the guy who just does the voices.
Well,
I'm because you're a trained actor, aren't you?
Yeah, the parts that I got, and they were really nice and good parts, and I really enjoyed myself, were generally characters who, at some point, put on a disguise. So there was just enough reason for them. I played the Duke in Measure for Measure, who starts off as the Duke and then disguises himself as a merry monk who goes the friar who goes around. And I did him as a friend of mine called David, just became a sort of Scottish monk, and then goes back to being the Duke again in the end. And I played Ford in Merry Wives, who disguises himself as Brooke. So I can't remember how I did Master Brooke. I think I wanted to do him. Scouse was a Bruch, but I think we didn't do him as Bruch. I can't remember how we did him, but anyway.
I mean, this is Jewish, or you're Bruch.
And Little Shop of Horror as well. In that, you play the dentist. I played the dentist, which is great in the first half, but in the second half, in the original script of Little Shop, the dentist character, because he dies. Yeah. Spoiler alert. Actually, I didn't spoil that before, it was just afterwards. But in the second half, he plays 4 different characters in one song and does a quick change of 25 seconds in between each one backstage, which was great. So anyway, in everything I did, more or less, there was this... People could go, oh, I see, because he had to play 2 different characters, that's why they gave him that. And I did the MC in Cabaret, and he doesn't really do different characters, but he's so extreme, and I made him speak... Like the Willkommen song was one of the happiest experiences of my life, singing that song.
Oh, wow.
And I was the first, to my knowledge, the first person who said Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome. And I made very clear that it was im cabaret in a German accent, au cabaret in a French accent, tout cabaret in an English accent. So I deliberately, overdid the whole thing of im cabaret, au cabaret, tout cabaret. And I'd never heard anybody else do that. It's always in cabaret, au cabaret, tout cabaret. Yeah. And you think, well, he's an entertainer. Surely he would do those different voices.
And then you think, back to the people in the night of stand. You're like, that's why I do these voices, because I get recognised for doing those little au cabaret, I cabaret, or whatever.
Yeah. And I think they like it. And that's why we've got this guy doing
So it wasn't actually, it turns out it wasn't so hard for you to make the switch from stand-up doing voices TV show, where you were pigeonholed as the impressions guy, which you build as the Alistair McGowan model naturally.
Yeah.
So it wasn't actually hard to cross over into the acting one, because it was more comedy acting, and now you're getting into more kind of serious.
Yeah, I mean, Measure
directing
for Measure was pretty serious, and Cabaret was obviously it was light. Well, it was a very serious message, but it was very showy.
But with producers, you didn't have to have conversations going, no, I'm a trained actor.
No, because the first person who took a punt on me was a wonderful director called Martin Duncan, who I'd worked with before the whole TV thing took off in Nottingham. We did a play or 2 down there, and then he took me to Chichester after the TV thing, so he knew straight away what I was capable of, and as an actor. And I think enough people then, from recommendation one to the other, obviously the theatrical grapevine said, oh no, he can do it and he can sing, and it's not just cashing in on, we're not just cashing in on the fact that he's box office, whatever, or just off the telly. So.
And that's when you put up the middle finger to all the hacks. Well, no, to all the people that put you down. Because I've had people going, oh yeah, you just do the voice. I go, well, I think I'm putting more of a joke to the voice, and then I go, well, maybe I'm doing voice, but the amount that comes, some money I've earned from just doing these stupid fucking voices as a kid, you go, you know what, I'm happy with my skill.
Yeah.
Carry on with your silly magic trick and your gay song. Anyway, but whatever.
Yeah, here's the thing that helped me with all the review stuff, and I mean, I don't tweet now, I'm just not interested in it, but if I did, or look at all that stuff, I'm sure it would help me the same. When we did the Big Impression pilot, the pilot show, the Daily Mail was so exciting before it went out, you know, massive dream of mine, and here it was, this show about to go out, the pilot show. And I checked all the papers in those days, I was keen to see what they said. The Daily Mail said something like, maybe misquoting it, but they said something like, terrific series of sketches, this is an excellent pilot show, deserves to get a series, look out particularly for the brilliant impression of Elvis Costello. McGowan not only looks but sounds exactly like the great man. Right? That's what they said in the Mail. Daily Express, this deserves to get a series, great sketches. Apart from the dreadful impression of Elvis Costello, which looks and sounds nothing like Elvis Costello. And I looked at that and I thought, there you go.
That's show business, man.
Have looked at that, and they're probably fans of Costello, so they knew him enough to say that. And one said that's brilliant, one said that's awful. And I thought, I will never be bothered about reviews again, because two people can look at it, one will hate it, one will love it. Forget it.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's like, as Terry Alden said the other day, he said to me years ago as a kid, he was like, when I just started at 18, I was like, just get over yourself. Quickly get over yourself.
You want everyone to love you, but you know, if you get 50-50, that's pretty good.
Like, I've had in my stand-up, in my career, like, you make that everyone's laughing, you smack the room, you come off going, wow, here we go, Mike, this is it.
Yeah.
Right? And then the only person who doesn't think was good enough was the booker going, yeah, we can't really book you. You're like, no, but I did the job that I was hired for. Yeah, well, it was a Tuesday and the shirt you're wearing and and politics and that. So it just proves you, as your stories,
but also when you're doing stand-up, you know, you always see, everyone says it, same in theatre, if you're doing a comedy, you see the face of the one person in the audience that's not laughing, and you get transfixed on that face. And if you're a schmuck, eventually you say, why aren't you laughing? You know, and you fall into that trap.
I'm so happy
Just go, okay. And it makes you laugh in a way, because you go, that person's just not getting this.
I'm so happy you started using Yiddish, Alistair. For a half Indian who just found out he's Irish, man. That's what I try to do with my friends. I try and encourage Yiddish.
Yes.
And let me just remind you, you were in Little Shop of Schnorrers.
Oh, okay.
You see?
Mushniks.
I didn't know what that means, but
Mushniks that he ran the shop.
That was enough. Into it, you go, fair enough.
Yeah. I hope Dara O'Brien from Mock the Week would be able to support me tonight and open the show, but Dara, of course, busy as ever, making Mock the Week an ongoing thing, because Mock the Week they're always on somewhere, there's things going on in the news, as well the politics, well, there's almost things to cover that you couldn't make it here tonight. Don't worry, Matty, you're not supposed to understand this bit. But of course, you may have heard the news this week. A man in Kenilworth, a group of people in fact in Kenilworth, being kept awake all night by a low-frequency drone. People in Kenilworth couldn't sleep at night. And people say, what's this low-frequency drone? Where is it coming from? Now, is it electricity pylons? Is it some of the solar panels? What is causing this low-frequency drone? And then he realised that people in Kenilworth, that somebody had left their TV on all night on Dave, and it was just me going, But who else is on the programme this week? Andy Parsons. What's been happening in the news this week, Andy Parsons? Well, this week, the government, every night, yet again, on their green promises. They're saying they want to build 50,000 homes over the next 20 years on the green belt land. They say they want to build what is effectively a town the size of Slough on the green belt land. Now, I don't know about you good people of Coventry, but I've been to Slough. Slough is a shithole. If the government want to build a town the size of Slough, why don't they leave the green belt land alone, knock down Slough, and build a town the size of Slough on top of bloody Slough? Thank you very much indeed, Andy Parsons. Very nice point there, well made. The audience very likes that one very much indeed. Who else is on the programme with me this week? Milton Jones. What's been happening in the news or for you this week, Milton Jones?
Well, this week I sent my first tweet. I'd never tweeted before. When I came out of my house, I saw these two lads dealing cannabis. I thought, I'm not having that. So I grabbed the cannabis off them and I chased them off. They then crept up on me, grabbed the cannabis and chased me off. I chased them for a bit. They chased me for a bit. I put that on Twitter. Hashtag.
Thank you very much indeed, Milton Jones. Well, it's on the programme this week's name is Mickey Flanagan. Well, this week I went to the horse racing for the first time. I hadn't never been to the horse racing before. When you come from the East End of London, you don't get to go to the horses. You might bet on the horses, you might eat the horses, but you don't get to go to the horses. So my manager rings me up, he says, Mickey, they want to take you to the horse racing. We don't know where, but we think it's going to be Epsom. Now, I didn't know whether that was the name of the race course or just some young person's word for something that's, like, really good. Somewhere between epic and awesome lies Epsom, innit? Thank you very much indeed, Mickey Flanagan. So all my guests in that part of the show, thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
You're listening to the Social Hand Grenade podcast. How do you find the writing to do the impressions? Like, you did 6 years of that. Doesn't that after a while you just got, about the Vernon Kay?
Yeah.
That was just a voice in the... But writing this, is there only so many angles you can do David Beckham?
Yeah.
You're doing it with your then partner, Ronnie.
Ex-partner then.
Yeah, you're the...
Yeah.
Oh,
We
it
were
was the ex, but you were
already.
still working together.
Yeah.
What's like
We've only got 15
Cleese.
minutes. That's another... That
Cleese
is
and Booth
therapy.
from...
That I would have to pay you if you hear me talk about that.
But, can I talk about that?
Yeah,
Can we
I
talk-
might not give you all the
it's
answers
interesting.
you want.
It's fine, but okay. So we'll forget the boring writing question. We'll go straight to no. But that is like you talking about love and empathy and it before and doing that, and obviously like anyone who's been in a relationship working, you've just collided two things together naturally, So you actually broke up before,
Yeah.
and
Not
then
long
you.
before either, about 6 months before.
But that's amazing. Like if you work together, or were you kind of both in a contract? You go, I'm getting paid too much for this. I'm bailing out.
I was surprised, really, and thrilled, obviously, but very surprised at how good Ronnie was. I knew from when we were together that she could do things and do voices.
Brilliant.
And she used to
she's
do a
brilliant.
Audrey Hepburn and a Marilyn Monroe for me, and but that was about it. And then when we did the pilot, I think she tried a couple of new ones, but Posh, obviously, and that was good. Although, again, I remember Time Out reviewing that pilot and saying, why are they doing David and Victoria Beckham? Nobody knows who they are or how they speak, which we always took great pleasure in remembering that. But the way she then went on to do all these people like Carol Smiley and Larry Kelly and Madonna and whoever else she did, I can't even remember now. There were so many really good ones. Davina McCall and Joe Wiley was fantastic.
Brilliant, yeah, genuinely brilliant.
Yeah. And she was great to work with, and so I knew, and in fact Ronnie Barker and Alan Titchmarsh, who I met during that period significantly at BBC events and things, both said, as did many other people, but they were the ones you'd know, both said, that's a special partnership you've got there. Don't lose that. Don't ruin that. And I had no intention of losing it, but it was great to hear it backed up that she just exceeded my expectations so much, and every voice that she was given, Ruby Wax, initially she couldn't do Ruby, and she just sat and worked and worked and worked, and I think it's one of the best impressions you will ever hear anybody do is Ronnie's Ruby Wax. She's going to go, that is unbelievable.
Just nails it.
Yeah. The sad thing now, really, is that Ronnie, since we did the show, I've been urging her to do new voices and to carry on with it, but she just isn't as motivated as I am about the whole thing unless the job is there,
Right.
And if we did ever want to do it again, I keep saying we'd have to go in and say, these are the new people we can do, and we want to do. But she doesn't really want to put the hours in because she knows what a lot of work it was. I mean, she'd be, a whole, sounds like nothing, I suppose, to some people, but a whole week working on Ruby Wax, and that's when you're doing 30 others at the same time.
And just draining, constant. And...
But she was very good and very good physically as well. And there were one or two that eluded her, like Judy Finnegan. She used to hate doing the Richard and Judy sketches because she couldn't get Judy, and she didn't like looking like Judy. She had to be padded and made to look older, and she just didn't like it. And she also didn't like the fact that Richard for me was like falling off a log, and was one of my most successful.
So she had to do it more because give the people what they want.
Yeah, and I don't think I ever really went in reverse. I mean, I remember doing James Nesbitt badly while she did a brilliant. I forgot her name now. Helen Baxendale.
Oh yeah, Friends.
Yeah, it was she was in Friends. They were doing something else together then. Cold Feet. We did a Cold Feet parody, and she did a great Monica and a great Phoebe from Friends. But my swimmer was good, so that was all right. But I was never really in a position where I thought, apart from the James Nesbitt thing, oh God, I'm just servicing Ronnie's impression here. And she did do that once.
So was there tension throughout the 6 years?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I mean, generally it was creative tension, and it was tension that was worthwhile because it pushed us. And I mean, people often said, how much did you write of that? And I had worked it out. It was 2/3 of it was my writing, and I script edited from series 2 onwards everything else. So everything kind of went through me. And Ronnie was a huge influence on that because she saw things in a different way. But that meant we had lots of fights about sketches. For instance, she and Alan Francis, who you may know from the comedy circuit,
I know Alan.
They used to write together, and she and he wrote one afternoon 4 sketches in an afternoon, which is very unusual for them. They were long too. They wrote Audrey and Carrie in a burger van, Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant in a burger van. And in those days, there's no email. They faxed it through. And she said, we're faxing it through now. You've got to read it. It's the funniest thing you've ever written. It's hilarious. It's all about us. Don't tell me. Let me read it. And I was saying, I think you're going to like it. It's all about us. No, don't tell me that. I'm going to read it through. It's really good. It's really good. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So these sketches came through, and I read them, and my face and my heart just dropped. I thought, I don't find these funny at all. There's not a joke.
So what'd you do? How'd you say no to your ex-girlfriend?
Well, there was a furious row. A furious row. You're going to read these sketches. We're going to read them out at the writers' meeting. Everyone's going to love them. So we did, and 2/3 of the people did really like them.
Right.
And since the show, she takes great delight in telling me that Stephen Fry, particularly, and several other people of note and not of note have come up to her and me and said, those sketches of those two in the burger van were just genius. But I didn't see a joke in them, or didn't get the joke. And it's the way comedy was going and has gone, is that, I like a joke as something that's got a joke at the end of it. For me, the sketches that I liked were the Posh and Becks ones, which generally I wrote, the majority of, which ended with something like him saying, I don't know why, but Sir Alex says I've got to go to choir practice. Why? Well, I've got a bad knee, and he says that apparently a choir practice is the best thing, and she says, not choir practice, chiropractic.
Right. So there's a joke, there's a boom, end of sketch.
That's what I like. And I get people coming up to me saying that joke about Posh and Becks with the choir practice. We still say that every time I go to, that joke with Posh and Becks and the distant relatives when he was throwing the presents in the distance. His relatives, I always tell that to my wife when we have the distant relatives over. So she's going to throw the presents like Posh and Becks. But I like those jokes. She liked the other sketches. And so together, it was actually very good. But there was a lot of rows about it with Ronnie saying, that's just a crummy old gag. Nobody wants to hear that sort of stuff. And me saying, there's no jokes in that. Where are the jokes? But it came together very well.
Would have that happened when you were going? Would it been for better or worse if you were actually going out while the show was going on, or would that have been actually really detrimental? Because then it's like boyfriend girlfriend.
I think we wouldn't have argued in that way, and actually that sort of conflict was what drove us both to better levels and drove the show to a better level. But anybody who worked on the programme would tell you it was pretty volatile at times.
Yeah?
Yeah. It was pretty volatile at times.
Wow.
It would just blow up for no apparent reason. And
But, with you knowing you for the past hour, I now know that you're not a horrible person.
Thank you very much.
How
it was in doubt.
So, you can't say anything horrible to your ex-girlfriend?
No, but...
there are exceptions.
If you say to somebody, whoever they are, that something that they've come up with isn't funny, we don't like it. It's
no.
And smacking a cat's nose.
Yeah,
think,
and
what do you do that for? Of course it's funny. I'll prove to you that it's funny. But that was a great thing, as I say, because we were able to argue and say, I'm going to prove it to you that it's funny, whether it was, subtly or not. You then inspire each other to greater heights. And actually, that's probably why the show was as good as it was and as successful as it was.
Because of so much energy and just love and hate and just not saying love, not hate. But, it's basically, let's be honest, it's Alan Francis, right? He's very dour, kind of nice, very lovely man, isn't it? But then he's probably... But what was his view? He's sat there just watching ex-boyfriend and girlfriend just...
Yeah, I think
was it because it was you three writing, or was there more?
No, there was a team of about over time, I suppose. Not a big team, maybe 10 overall, but it was normally 5 or 6 per show.
So how do you choose? Do you choose?
Yeah, between me and the producer, we would choose. Yeah.
And how does that choose? Because Alan's not an impressionist. Or do you go for people who are so different from you or different style? How do you got your show, you go, right, we need writers. Why did you choose Alan Francis, for example?
He and Ronnie had been writing together beforehand.
Oh, right, so it's quite natural.
Yeah, so they were quite a pair. And then Julian Dutton I used, who's just been writing with Matt Lucas on Pompidou. And Julian had written something called The Harpoon, which I'd been involved in with Peter Bainham. Peter was way off in Hollywood by this time. But that was one of the best written things I'd ever been involved in, so I wanted Julian on my side, because Julian was crazy as well, really left-field ideas. We did a Changing Rooms parody, for instance, and then we said, Charlie Hanson, our producer, who has a very good voice to do himself, he said, "This Changing Rooms have been very funny, I think we should do more of those, so let's write some more of those." So Julian came in with this one about badgers, and it was badgers who'd redesigned their set, and he wanted Launcelot and Bowen in this badgers set surrounded by badgers. And we all read it and laughed hysterically, and then Charlie was saying, "We can't possibly film this, because how are we going to..." And everyone's going, "But Charlie, we've got to, it's hilarious, everyone loves it." And he said, "No, you have to write for, you have to imagine, and you realise you have to write for expense quite a lot of the time. You have to think, how can we pull this show off? Is that laugh worth £10,000 or is it worth £500?
See, that's a challenge that like I used to write for a World Cup for Pepperami. I used to write little gags, that every day 10 topical, bang, 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 bang. So you just, and you get in the head of just learning the process.
Yeah.
You go, all right, that's funny enough. It's not making me laugh, go bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
But you couldn't swear, you couldn't say anything sexual based, you couldn't this, you couldn't that, you couldn't do all the little accessories and we're talking about like the sort of wags and England.
Yeah.
And you go, what do you mean I can't do anything sexual based? And that's when the confinements of TV can corporate. It's all corporate. Let's be honest. It's mainstream. Stop that.
Yeah,
and they probably might kill comedy in respects. But if you're,
but I always think back in the 50s and way before that, there were such strict rules of what you could and couldn't say, and the way that you would get near to the line without going over the line was almost funnier because people knew what you meant, but you didn't say it.
Like the Frankie Howard
innuendo. I mean, endless innuendo,
or
the endless jokes that get through that people go, "I never realised that was meant that," or so that didn't bother. So one thing that really surprises me now and almost disappoints me is on one of our Christmas shows we were doing Trini and Susanna, and it was a really good sketch. It was quite political actually. We used to get quite a lot of politics in there that people didn't realise, and that was one of the criticisms we got. People say, "Oh, it's light and it's just there's no politics, there's no satire." We never set out to do satire. I think satire's fundamentally unfunny personally, but we did put a lot of political comment in, which people never really gave us credit for. And we did this thing about Trina and Susanna, really treating their clients like they were Nazis, or they were treating them, saying we cannot have this, and everything must match. And it was this kind of quite hidden, not that hidden Germanic thing that they were doing, or Nazi. Sorry, not Germanic, Nazi. Anyway, we did this sketch, and it had the word tits in it because they kept saying all their programs, Trini and Susanna back then, they were saying, "Oh, your tits look great, darling. Oh, it's so good for your tits. It really lifts your tits. Oh, it's all about the tits." So we did the sketch and we mentioned tits, 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 and it was hilarious. And people loved it. The audience loved it when we played it into them. And then the BBC saw it and they said, "You can't say tits on Christmas Day." What? And they said, "I just don't think it's appropriate that you're saying tits on Christmas Day on a family show at 8:30. So, right, but it's a really good sketch, and they're just two of the most high-profile people on television at the moment. What do we do? And they said, "Can you change it to tuts?" So what? So we had to go into a dubbing studio, and each time they said tits, we had to go into the microphone, "Tuts." So that it was going, "Oh, I love your tuts," and it was just crazy. And I really sort of resent it now. At the time, I thought, okay, if that's the way we've got to do it, that's what we'll do. But now you on Christmas Day, Catherine Tate going, "Oh, fucking this," as grandmother, and every other show these days on Christmas. There seems to be absolutely no censorship at all. And now I'm sitting there as the 50-year-old, thinking, why are they getting away with this? This is offensive. And I'm sure somebody in our time would have thought, "Oh, you shouldn't be saying tits on Christmas Day." But the fact that we couldn't say tits and now they can seem to say whatever they want, you think, what have we lost? I don't know. Is it good that you can always say whatever you want?
I think so.
I
think as a comic, you need to be. As I'm now getting into it, I've did years of impressions, not as a young guy, not really know what I'm doing, and people say, "Joseph, dig deep, like really get into it. Now I'm just putting up material where I'm going, yeah, this is what I believe in, this is what I believe in. And sometimes, you know, I think as a comic, which you are, I would even say you're not an impression, you're a stand-up. You know, compression is like, you're just a geezer. You know, no, you're a comic.
Yeah.
You have the same impulse. And it's just about being that truthful. And I think you can say whatever you want. And maybe one of my heroes is Patrice O'Neill.
Yeah.
Who, when you said appropriate, he said that's a vaginal word. I mean, that's an amazing joke. However, but he's so full on, Patrice now, and he's like, you say what you want.
Well, I like comics who do that. I mean, I've always loved Sean Hughes and Mark Steele. I think is fantastic. You know, people like that who really, you learn something from them about life. You learn about Russell Howard as well. You know, you watch him, you learn stuff. He doesn't treat you like an idiot. But I do think there are a lot of people who just. I mean, there's somebody for everybody. It's like a sweet shop, isn't it?
Sure,
but you know, there are some people who just go on and it's just filth and it's just sex, and lots of swearing. And I think, is that really worth it? But if you're swearing because you're getting worked up about something, I think, yeah, why not? You know, and that's what I envy. I've never been able to make my passions funny. I can't.
But can't you just force yourself? Forget the audience. They go, well, why? What's McGowan doing?
It's not even that. It's knowing how to get the comedy out of it in the writing. I've never been able to do that. I'm somebody who always lurches towards the gag and lurches towards, you know, the pun.
Have you ever tried to, like, with the whole environment, you know, you feel and what you... But that was amazing, mate. You're talking about love and empathy, and that was amazing. You had me hooked as like an... And then you can't put a joke on that?
It sort of belittles it or undercuts it, but now I've tried with the environment and...
just people go, yeah, whatever, mate.
Yeah, I used to do this thing, for instance, or you know, it just doesn't suit me because people go, well, that sort of came from...
One of the things I did recently, I was very proud of.
Yeah.
I've been doing some shows.
She
with
sometimes
Jasper
says if I do anything too
amazing.
on
He
the
does
nose, she says it's just not what people
second
have
half of both
expecting
halves,
from
I do
you.
the
It
first
comes
half
as a
of both
shock,
halves,
so they
so
don't
we do
laugh.
half
An hour each in each half. And I ended it because I wanted to do something about the world now. And my thing was, this came to me not really as a comedy idea, but as a philosophy, that Shakespeare taught me everything I know, which is true.
Okay.
I studied Shakespeare as a kid, and everything I know about jealousy and the evils of jealousy comes from Othello and Much Ado About Nothing, and everything I know about the evils of stupidity of revenge comes from Romeo and Juliet and the awful sadness and tragedy of that, and how stupid it is that we want revenge or that we have sectarianism. And then the whole thing about racial prejudice and the evil of that, for me, comes from reading The Merchant of Venice. And nowhere more so than in the line when Shylock says, if you prick us, do we not bleed? And I've always remembered that line. If you prick us, do we not bleed? We are all the same human organism. And if you prick us, our blood bleeds, and it is red blood. Whether we're Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, whether we're from India or Ireland or America or Russia or Afghanistan or Iraq, wherever we're from, we bleed red blood. And I thought, we see all this blood at the moment there on television, horrible bloodshed all around the world. And I just thought, if only we'd realised that we all have the same blood and that we are all the same organism, maybe then we can move on and have a world of peace. And this is true, this is what I thought. And I thought, that's the message to spread. And I thought, yeah, but the minute we say we've all got the same blood, it's red, somebody will say, yeah, but I'm blood group A. And they're blood group B.
Fight them!
And I don't like them because they've got different and opposing antibodies and antigens.
This is what depresses me so much.
And it was depressing. But I tried doing that as material and it just doesn't sit as well as it should do with me.
That sounds, because I can feel you going into it. There's more water if you need. And I know you've got to wrap.
Yeah.
That really depresses me because any kind of war, race, conflict, it's all about territory and different people. Like, technically, we could have a thing of going... from your program, who do you think you are? You found that you're Indian and Irish. And I'm Russian, Polish, kind of. So already going, right, well, you're different. You're different. Why? Just shut up, you're different. And so all these things, religion, all these different things, everyone's different. And it just depresses you. You're like, what the... exactly what you said about Shylock.
That's what I thought. If we could just... I honestly was thinking, how do you get through to people? How can we convince people nowadays that we're all the same? And that is the quote. If you prick us, do we not bleed?
I think there is something funny in that. If you're that big thing, the amazing thing is you capture an audience, and maybe the end bit is not sharp. Like, for example, it could be like all jokes. You always have to edit, keep editing. Or
I think the problem with it was I did it and it worked. It worked well, but
keep it.
But
it's amazing.
Jasper said to me, it doesn't really set up. It's not a closer. For me, if it was my own show, it would be a closer. Because you think, I've actually said something there about life, and that brings it to a close. But to then bring somebody else on the back of that bit of material, I think probably wasn't the best. But because I'm not closing the show,
Amazing.
I can't do it. So I think he was right. It didn't suit that show, that in that place,
Yeah.
in the set. And I wouldn't want to do it in the middle because
So you don't want to
get back from it.
So it feels like you're in your, after 25 years of doing stand-up, and it feels like you're kind of itching into trying to talk about you more.
Yeah, I did a little bit more. But again,
You're still people going, do the voice.
I just know from that Andy Parsons example of whatever it was 2 hours ago that when you when I do a joke as me, it gets a B+ laugh maximum. If I do it in an impression, then I know it works. But what I've always tried to do, is to do the joke as me and to make it so I know it works. I know it's funny.
That's
It's
interesting.
not just the voice which is making
Because
it work.
I think when I do McIntyre, they're just laughing at Michael McIntyre constantly. They're laughing. Are they laughing? Are they laughing? And I've got jokes in between, like bang, bang, bang. But are they just laughing because yes.
Yeah.
I go, oh, fuck, are you just laughing at the voice? Because I know with hack impressionists
harm
you
in
can
that.
just. But I think that's a bit hack. Because I
you
know
want
how to
something
get.
else as
I know
well.
how to get rounds of applause every single minute. It sounds so ego, but I know how to do it. Just do the voice, bang, yeah! Or the shitheads go, yeah! But
Yeah.
I just want. What am I saying? What am I saying with the voice? What am I?
Yeah.
How do I make it about me? This is Joseph Wilson, and then I do a voice. It's not like I just do a voice and. I don't know. I always find that, but that's a tough thing with impressionists. That to
It
try
is.
and sync it together. And going back to as we talked about 2 hours ago, was that look like, sound like, and then joke like the hat trick.
The hat trick. That's right. But sometimes the voices help you. Sometimes maybe you help them in a strange way. Like I've got a joke I just did a few times recently, and it's worked once out of 3 times. So I know there's something there, and I like it. It's just a gag. But I say I was very pleased to be in this room again. I performed here recently. I was doing a gig for a mobile phone company. And so they were intent on having a good night. They had 5 bars in the room at the start of the night. Then it went down to 3, back up to 4, then down to 2. And once it worked really, really well. And
But it got an
recently,
awful reception.
now it starts groaning. That's great. That's what I need. That's what I need. But I thought recently, if I did that joke as Joe Brand, it might work. Because Joe sort of would do a joke like that. But she would end it by saying, it went down to 3, back up to 4, then down to 2. Ha ha.
Aren't you just shoehorning? Aren't you shoehorning a voice in? What's the relation?
Well, I'd probably have to say something like.
What's the relation with mobiles and Joe Brown?
Yeah, you can form one. I'd forge one, but then yes, it's a lot of crowbarring. But sometimes I don't see the join. Here's another for instance.
Yeah.
Better for instance. I did a joke. Should I do the whole joke as me and then do it as him? I
Yes,
suppose I will.
yes.
So
yes.
the gag as me was I was at an auction recently, and you know how drunk people can get at auctions, and they were auctioning off a pair of Phil Tufnell's old cricket shoes. And the guy who bought them was so drunk that when he was given them, when he bid successfully for them, he tried to eat them. But he couldn't, obviously, because they were tough as old boots. They groan. I stopped doing the gag. And then recently I was thinking, I've never been able to get a gag for Adrian Chiles. What do I do? So suddenly I thought, Adrian Chiles was on 5 Live recently, and he said, I was at the celebrity auction, and they were auctioning off Phil Tufnell's old cricket shoes. Bloke who bought them tried to eat them, but he couldn't because they were tough as old boots. Anyway, and suddenly it worked because I set him up and say, he's a man who likes a pun.
Yeah.
Which maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I think he does, actually. But because I've said he likes a pun, and it's him doing it, they laugh
Yeah.
at the voice and at the gag, and at the fact that he thinks it's funny, not me.
Interesting.
And that's often what works, is that he thinks it's funny, or she thinks it's funny, not me.
1 minute
Yeah.
before you go, I
wrap
think you
up.
made your social hand grenade moment before, which I always ask the last question, but I think
Yeah.
you did it at the start.
Yes. Mock the week.
Mock the week.
Yeah, I'm too far off mic. Yeah.
Right, I ask everyone this. What do you do away from comedy? What do you do away? What do you do for you? What do you do? I'm learning Spanish. I
Yeah.
run around in bars and try and talk to women, get drunk, use other
Those are
people's
the
jokes, other comedians' jokes to make
Right,
them laugh.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a complete hack off stage. I stink of hack. Trust me. I'll be there tonight. So, Phil Tufnell boots.
Yeah.
But what do you do
Don't do
away
that one.
from acting? What do you do? What do you do?
Too much now. Too much. I'm really struggling today, so I keep shifting around. I've played a lot of tennis over the last 10 years, and I've got absolutely ruined joints at the moment. My back, my hip, and my knee are killing me. So I'm in trouble. But apart from tennis, which I don't do now because I've hurt myself so much, I swim a lot. So I swim 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh, yeah.
And I play quite a bit of snooker, which is something that's taken me over in the last 3 years.
You used to play with mates, or you go to snooker hall?
There's a place where we play a sports club that I'm a member of, and they've got a table there, so I play, 2 actually. So I go down there and play with people. There's a little box league, which I won last year.
Oh, wow.
Box league, and I've won a trophy there as well, which I'm pleased about. That was very thrilling.
Award-winning.
Now
you're award-winning.
Yeah, they're better than me, but there's handicaps involved, and so I'm quite a good match player. But I really am inspired by that, and I'm getting my breaks to the 20s now, and I just want to get to 30s and 40s. But it eludes me. I won today 3-0, so I'm very pleased about that. And I play, as of recently, last year, about an hour of piano every day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that's why, because I got a piano, and that's why you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember. You did it on Who Do You Think You Are? You started playing.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, this guy.
I know.
Should have turned to the camera and go, not only voices.
That was one of the pieces that I could play, literally a party piece. That was the one thing I'd learned and could play from years ago, but I've really started to expand now, and I'm actually going on a piano tuition weekend this weekend in West Sussex. I can't wait. 6 hours a day for 2 days.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I'm determined to. There's pieces I want to play, and I really want to be good enough to play them. So that's my big thing.
Well, thank you so much, Alistair. It's such a dream. I first met you when I was at the FA Cup final. Yeah, Royal Box when Arsenal won 2-0
against Newcastle.
Yeah, and now the Novamars. And I first met you there.
How old were you then?
13.
Blimey.
Yeah, you've aged a lot. But no, it's great that you be here, and I really liked that you've really shared, and thank you so much. And
Pleasure.
I appreciate all your time.
It's all right.
And if this was a shrink session for you, fantastic. Yeah. Great. Alistair McGowan, thank you so much for being on the Social Hand Grenade podcast. Thank you, sir. Done. Wicked. Oh, I'm still working. What kind of voice? This is just from me edit notes. What kind of song do you want to play out?
Oh gosh.
Oh, let's do your wife. Your wife's a singer.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Sure. You would. Oh yeah.
Can you mention it's her?
Say it into the mic, just so.
Oh, okay. So playing us out. This is my wife, who's a singer, singing from Sondheim's Follies. One of the best versions you'll ever hear of this song, and it's called "In Buddy's Eyes." There's another one that she sings. I'm trying to remember the name.
And by who's your wife called?
Oh God, yeah. Let me just remember the name of the other song. In Buddy's Eyes.
Amazing.
What's the first song that she sings called?
Wouldn't it be amazing if I kept this and sent it to your wife? Like, my husband doesn't even know.
I'm losing my mind. Okay. This song, to play us out, is sung by my wife, whose professional name is Charlotte Page. And this is her singing Losing My Mind by Stephen Sondheim from Follies. And if you hear a better version than this, I want to know about it.
And go fuck yourself if you've heard a better version.
I would never say that.
Thank you very much, Alistair. Cheers.
The sun comes up, I think about you. The coffee cup, I think about you. I want you so, it's like I'm losing my mind. The morning ends, I think about you. I talk to friends, I think about you. And do they know it's like I'm losing my mind? All afternoon doing every little chore, the thought of you stays bright. Sometimes I stand in the middle of the floor, not going left, not going right. I dim the lights and think about you, spend sleepless nights to think about you. You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? I want you so, it's like I'm losing my mind. Does no one know? It's like I'm losing my mind. All afternoon doing every little chore. The thought of you stays bright. Sometimes I stand in the middle of the floor, not going left, not going right. I dim the lights and think about you. Spend sleepless nights to think about you. You said you loved me, or were you just being kind?